Somewhere inside a giant beautiful cathedral in Spain, we see Lola and Adolfo getting married, as he puts a ring on her finger and kisses her at the end of their beautiful wedding ceremony. On their way out to be welcomed by a gathering of family and friends waiting outside, they discuss what to name their twins, and we come to know Lola is pregnant. However, the whole crowd waiting outside for them is shocked to see her bleed around her pelvis area. Later in the hospital, resting on her bed, a doctor walks in and breaks the news that she has lost her baby due to internal bleeding and won't be able to bear children any longer. This brings tears to her eyes, making her cry her heart out. 6 months after the incident, seeing his wife drowning in sorrow, Adolfo has had enough of seeing her cry all the time and suggests an orphanage nearby, asking her to adopt a child from there. He thinks it will help her ease her pain and bring joy to her life again. It does not take long before Lola turns around to the idea. Soon thereafter, they visit the convent and meet the Reverend Mother. She tells them the convent's history is as old as the birth of Christ, and their methods of disciplining children are equally old too. In the middle of their stroll through the halls, she informs him that they only keep abandoned children, from unwed mothers, prostitutes, and children with disability, including children with mental disabilities. As they find Lola missing, we find Lola lost in her thoughts, strolling around the convent on her own. Finding herself alone inside a cathedral, she hears a beautiful piece of music echoing in the chambers, lifting the mood. Joining her again, the Reverend Mother tells them about Tin and Tina, children who are playing the music. Seeing Lola is keen to meet the children, the Reverend Mother calls out their names, asking them to join down in the hall. She tells Lola, Tin, and Tina are special twins, who were abandoned outside the gates of the convent when they were barely weeks old, and have been here ever since, raised by the convent. Surprised by their names, Adolfo asks her, why don't the kids have regular Spanish names, and comes to know they were named after Saint Augustine, the patron saint of the order. Spooked by a thunder outside, the twins run and grab Lola. As Lola begins to leave, the children beg her to stay, telling her how they will never find parents who would love them. Seeing Lola is thinking, Adolfo asks her to think carefully, not approving of the children, telling her they are too old and a little strange. However, Lola has already made up her mind. He asks her to be sure what she is doing, as Lola takes a final look. And they are soon on their way to their home together. Reaching home, they find the dogs startled and barking uncontrollably at the twins. As Adolfo takes the children inside, telling them he flies planes for a living, the children ask him how far is the convent, as the ride did not take very long. Adolfo tells them it's 15 kilometers by car and 6 kilometers by walk. And when he asks them why they wanted to know, Tin and Tina shrug their shoulders. Inside the house all by themselves, Adolfo kisses Lola and is pleased to see Lola smile after a long time. Later, Lola finds the children playing in her child's home and asks them to play somewhere else, and we see her still struggling to let go of the death of her children. During the dinner, Adolfo comes to know the Reverend Mother was not telling a lie when she said Tin and Tina were raised in traditional ways, as he finds out children don't recognize TV. In the middle of their dinner, the children run away, and when they come back we see Tin putting a crown of thorns on Adolfo's head and Tina giving a rosary to Lola, telling her it will protect her from evil. Soon thereafter, Adolfo says a grace and they all begin to eat. Later, while putting them to bed, when children ask Lola why she does not have her baby and needs to adopt, she tells them it's impossible for her to give birth to a baby. Telling her nothing is impossible, children tell Tina miracles happen every day. Finding a bunch of crosses in their room, Lola asks them, why did they bring all the crosses? The children tell her it's for keeping the exterminating angels away. Later, before going to sleep we see Lola putting away her rosary in the drawer. The next morning, waking up from her sleep, Lola finds children already awake trying to wake her up. She makes them breakfast. As they all sit down together, Tim asks Tina about his desire to see God so he can ask for a miracle. Unwilling, Tina grabs a bag and tries to choke Tin. Lola begins to panic, only to realize the children are only playing. After being let go by Tina, Tin tells Lola he has asked God something for her. Meanwhile, we see Tin and Tina go to their school on their first day and be made fun of by Pedro for being strange, calling them a bunch of Draculas. Back at home, seeing children upset over being mistreated for being strange, Lola shows them her prosthetic leg, telling them she is strange too after all. She tells them she lost her leg along with her parents out in the camper during a freak fire accident. Soon thereafter, Lola finds all the doors have nailed crucifixes above them. Happy that it was not Adolfo, Lola finds out he does not believe in any God, much like her. However, he asks her to let the kids be themselves, as it would be unnatural for them to expect any other behavior. Later in the night Lola goes to the children's room and decides to join them in their pillow fight, only to realize the children have put a bag over her head and begin to suffocate her. They let her go as Adolfo walks inside. Mad with what they have done to her, Adolfo decides to punish them and calls them inside, leaving them to apologize to her. Meanwhile, we see children notice Lola dropping a drop of doxepin inside her tea. However, the dog does not stop barking and is agitated enough to bite Lola on her hand before running away. At night, deciding to punish the dog, Tin and Tina sneak into the room and steal Lola's medications. Then, they go outside and manage to make the dog sleep, before dragging it inside the drawing room. They soon begin to perform a ceremony to cleanse the dog's soul. In the morning, when they realize what the children have done, Adolfo calls it an honest mistake and asks Lola to teach the children, as they don't know any better. Later, waking up, she finds the children punishing themselves. Lola decides to dress their wounds. Thinking she has had enough, she asks them to stop doing penance in the house, telling them there is no heaven or hell, or any God in the sky, and how it's all fairy tales told to scare the children. However, the children tell her she is wrong. And someday, she will start believing too. Soon, it's Christmas time, and Adolfo comes in and gives the children their gifts. In the middle of their Christmas celebration, Lola faints and is taken to the hospital. They cannot believe it when the doctor gives her the news that she is pregnant, calling it a Christmas miracle. Sometime later, in the middle of their dancing, when the children try to convince her it's a miracle that she is having a baby, Lola tells them it's not a miracle, but merely a coincidence that can be explained. But the children remind her that Jesus too was born of a virgin mother and died for other people's sins, asking her what if their brother too is destined for a similar fate, spooking her. Meanwhile, on the way to their communion, Pedro falls behind the line and tells Tin and Tina that they must be disappointed to be blessed by Jesus and would rather have a blessing by Satan. Shocked, Tina asks Tin to wait for God to punish Pedro for blasphemy. Meanwhile, inside the church, as the children receive their communion, Lola begins to panic not seeing her children, only to see them in the altar playing the music. We see Pedro walk inside the church covered in blood, as he falls on the ground. Back at home, Lola asks them if they are responsible for what happened to Pedro at the church, reminding them not to lie as it is a sin. But the children assure her she has nothing to worry about, and that they will pray for him. Later, she gets a call from Pedro's mother, telling her Pedro is in the coma. She begs her to find out if her children are responsible. Lola decides to find out what is going on with her children and visits the convent to see the Reverend Mother. Looking for an answer, she asks her if the children have acted violently in the past due to wrong interpretations of the biblical verses. However, the Reverend Mother recites John 10:14, telling her suffering is necessary to see Christ. And when Lola asks her if they are capable of violence, the Reverend Mother calls them pure and righteous and blames her for judging them. Walking away, she asks her to keep seeking, telling her she will only fight the lightness through seeking. Later, after tucking her children in her bed, she finds an Old Testament, and flipping through its pages she finds a drawing inside. It shows them sacrificing the dog. She also finds another drawing scribbled with Matthew 14 and Samuel 17, showing the sacrifice of her yet unborn child. As she leaves the room, we see Tina is wide awake. Meanwhile, Adolfo returns home. Lola tells him everything she has found and tells him what happened to Pedro, suspecting Tin and Tina are responsible. She shows him the evidence and asks him to report it to the police. However, Adolfo asks her to believe the children. He reminds her to behave like a good mother, protecting them, as he asks her to wait for the kid to come out of his coma and explain what happened. Moments later, the children wake up to find all their crucifixes are gone. Running to the hall, they find Lola, packing away all their crosses and Bibles. She asks them to open it when they are older. Not stopping there, she warns them, if she finds the box open, she will take them back to the convent, putting a lock on the box. The next morning, Lola wakes up. Hearing the children playing with Adolfo in the kitchen, she walks in, only to be pointed out that her hair has been cut. Later, she blames the children for cutting her hair. But Adolfo thinks she is overthinking it, claiming it is some side effect of pregnancy. He refuses to believe children are responsible for such devilish nuisances. She begs him to believe in her once about the children. Away from the kids, Lola calls Pedro's mother to ask about him, only to be told of his death and hung up on. As Adolfo begins to leave for work, Lola asks him not to leave her alone. He tells her to go to sleep, telling her when she wakes up he will be right next to her. Before he goes away, Adolfo asks Tin and Tina to take care of her mother and show her how much they love her. The next morning when she wakes up, Lola finds herself tied to her bed by Tin and Tina, who bring her the breakfast and try to inject her with poison. She panics and leaves the bed. As she shouts at them for trying to poison her and pulls a kitchen knife, Adolfo is back from work and is shocked to see her behaving irresponsibly. Later in the hospital, Adolfo tells her that the children were only trying to make her breakfast as he told them to, as he blames himself for putting the idea into the children's heads. Telling her she has given birth to a healthy baby last night, he asks her to start again. With her baby in her arms, Adolfo introduces the boy to the children. Tin kisses him on the forehead and calls him his brother. Tin asks Lola, when will the baby be baptized? But Lola tells him he won't be baptized till he is grown up and can choose his own religion. Unsatisfied, Tin asks her, would not the baby be in forever limbo if he is not baptized? Adolfo agrees with him and asks for a vote on the matter. And the majority votes for baptizing the baby. Soon thereafter, while in the middle of the football game, seeing mother has gone away to the coop, Tin and Tina bring the baby out and try to baptize it in the swimming pool outside. Busy with enjoying the game, Adolfo does not notice that the baby is being drowned. Upon her return, Lola sees her being drowned by the children. She takes the baby away and shouts at Adolfo for being so irresponsible. He has had enough and decides to teach the children a lesson. Furious, he takes their Bible and burns it on the barbecue stove, but not before telling them they are not their children. It would not be long before he decides to take the children back to the convent and leave them there. With the baby now 1 month old, celebrating the occasion, Adolfo tells Lola not to worry about the children, telling her he had always thought them to be strange. He asks her to focus on the future, and not the past, pointing to his son. Meanwhile, back in the convent, we see the children with the Reverend Mother, reading them from Galatians 6:7, asking for God not to be mocked, and that whatever that the man sowed he shall also reap, and we see Tin and Tina faithfully reciting the verses. We see Adolfo, unable to tolerate the baby crying, asks Lola to pick up the baby, and he loses his control. Meanwhile, on his way back home after celebrations, Adolfo almost manages to crash his car into a deer. Later at home, after tucking her baby in the bed, Lola finds the door to the house open. It surprises Adolfo too, as he remembers closing it. With the TV not working, Adolfo goes outside to fix the antenna. Soon, the lights in the house start flickering and a song begins to play in the house. Lola goes outside to look for Adolfo and finds him burning on the roof after being electrocuted. She runs into the house to go to the roof to help him but turns around to see him fall to the ground. Adolfo walks into the house in flame looking for help, but manages to burn himself even more. Soon the entire house is on fire. Lola runs to her baby's room and finds him missing. Unable to cope with her grief of losing her husband and child on the same night, Lola suffocates herself with a bag. Waking up from her self-induced suffocation, she walks into her baby's room and finds her there. She picks up the baby hugging her tightly, as she begins to run outside with her baby still in her arms in the middle of the rain. As the movie ends, we see the Reverend Mother visiting Lola in the hospital. She tells him Adolfo died from the lighting strike last night. And when she asks her if the children are innocent, she tells her they have always been innocent. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification for more of Bollywood in English. Thanks for watching.